Hello, everyone. It's Deb with the UAP Medical Coalition. Today, I'm speaking to Kevin Briggs about his UAP experiences and the resulting medical and psychosocial effects. Kevin, can you please let people know who you are?
Hi, yes, my name's Kevin Briggs. I'm a retired police officer from the UK. I now live in Florida. I'm a lifelong experiencer, which started when I was 8 years old when two beings materialized in my bathroom. I'm now an author. I was asked by my ET guides about 5 years ago to write about my experiences. So I've written one book and I've got another book ready to publish. Yeah, a lifelong experiencer with UFOs, with actual ETs, with all the modalities of contact that go with that.
Could you briefly tell us a little bit about some of your encounters with UAPs?
Okay, well, I think it's always best to start at the beginning, and then I can do it chronologically, and then I don't forget the story, as it were. So, before we get to the UAPs or UFOs, as I prefer, uh, I would have to start with I was 8 years old. I was taking a bath at home. There was a change in the vibrational frequency in the bathroom, which I could detect. I looked to my right, and two beings materialized, one male, one female, both very attractive, both with blonde, shoulder length hair, deep blue eyes, and they were both wearing a jumpsuit type garment that was dark blue as well. And I was frightened to death at the time, absolutely petrified, as you can imagine, as an 8-year-old boy. They were speaking to one another telepathically, which I could understand. And the female, I know them now, I've known them all my life. Ort is the male's name, D is the female. D said to Ort, "Is this the boy?" And Art said, "Yes, this is the boy." Um, and then D questioned him again and said, "Are you sure this is a boy? Look at him. He's small, he's uneducated, and he's frightened by our presence." And she was correct. I was terrified. And Art replied, "Yes, this is a boy. I will guide him. I will teach him." There was some other communication there between the two of them, and then they left. And as I said, I was terrified. I didn't get out of the bath. The water went cold. My mother came in to see why I was still in the bath. I was shivering. I told her about the two beings, and she said it was just my imagination. It wasn't. I'm now 69, and I've been in contact with these two all my life. And at 14, I was introduced to 6 others. So I have a total contact of 8 extraterrestrials, higher conscious beings, whatever title you want to put on them. So that's the beginning of my journey. My next encounter, before we get to the UAPs and UFOs, I was 9 years old. I'd had some friends round on a Sunday. We were just playing games as kids do. It was time for them to leave to go home for their tea, and I showed them out the back door. As I turned back into the house, I realized there was some energy in the house that wasn't there before. I went looking for the energy. I went into the living room. I went into the kitchen. I went upstairs, checked the bedrooms. I went back down to the living room. That's where the energy was strongest. And I was drawn to the window. I looked behind the drapes and the curtain, and there was an orb there behind the curtain. It was about 4 to 6 inches across, slightly vibrating, with it was orangey, yellow, golden in colour, and it was just sat there. I was a bit concerned because I thought I may have brought it into the home. Anyway, nothing transpired, and I thought, oh, well, it stayed there all day. I thought the following morning when I get up for school, it will have gone. It hadn't. It was there for a whole week. It stayed from Sunday till Friday. And when I came home from school on the Friday, I opened the back door and I knew it had gone. I went to the window, looked behind the curtain, and it wasn't there. But what happened with that? It enhanced my psychic abilities to where I could travel outside of the physical body at will. I didn't use it. I didn't know the full potential of it then as a 9-year-old boy, but I would travel just 70 miles, usually at the weekend, to go and visit my grandparents who lived in Liverpool, about 70 miles away. And it would give me great comfort. I would just travel over there as pure conscious energy, enter through the roof. I would go upstairs to their master bedroom. They had a dressing room. I would sit in the dressing room on a chair, looking down through the opaque floor. And I would see usually my grandmother in the kitchen cooking on a Sunday, and my grandfather either reading the newspaper or watching TV. And I often wonder when I was sat there, what would they see if they came upstairs? I now know the answer to that. They would have seen a round, conscious energy orb about 4 to 6 inches across, slightly vibrated by pure conscious energy. So that was the limit of me using that at the age of 9. I didn't travel any further with it at that time. And then my next encounter, getting to the UFOs and UAPs, as some people call them now, when I was 14 years old, I had a paper round. And when I left the paper round, when I left the home to go to the paper round, there was always a UFO appeared above the house. I would look up, I would see the UFO, I would set off to collect my papers, and a second UFO would appear. And then they would follow me around the paper round. And while that was happening, I was always aware that there was someone behind the hedge, someone behind the wall watching me. I could feel their frequencies, their vibrational frequencies. And on one occasion, I asked them I said, I know you're there. Can you show yourself? And 2 small greys stepped out from behind the wall, behind the hedge. And I wasn't frightened. And I asked what they wanted. They said there was a group of people that wished to meet with me. Would I go with them? And I said, I need to go to school, and I've got to finish my paper round. And they said, well, you can finish your paper round and we'll have you back in time for school. So I agreed to go with them. I was taken in a craft to a mothership. And the reason why I think it was a mothership was because of the size of it, the size of the hangar, all the different UFOs as we see them in this hangar. And then I was led down to an amphitheater. The amphitheater was full of different beings. And on the stage at the front were 8 beings. These beings were, I thought I was there as a human specimen to be shown off and paraded as a human species. Sat at the front were these 8 beings, Orton D, the first 2 that I met when I was 8 years old. Then Anna, Zark, Ra, Tag, Chica, and Ola. That was the 8, all different species, all different jobs and designations, as it were. I was introduced to them all. I went along the line, introduced to them all. And as I said, at the time, I thought I was just there, the human specimen. I know different now. That was very similar to our, say, a Congress or a Parliament or the United Nations, where people gather and the speakers are on the front table and the delegates are sat in the amphitheater. And that's what I was there. I was there to be introduced to those 8, and I was. So that was my experience then. And then I'll just go with one more experience before I start answering these questions, Deb, that you've given me. The next experience, I'd be, 16, 17. And I'd got used to this traveling out of body, and I used to do it all the time. It was just natural to me. If I was going around to see a friend, I would nip out first out of body to make sure I was at home, so I didn't waste my time walking around. Or I would use it sometimes in the morning when going to work. I would check which bus stop had the shortest line and then walk to that bus stop to save me time in standing for 20 minutes in a line to get on a bus. So just simple things like that. And we didn't have cell phones, so my out-of-body abilities came in hand. And but then I started asking people, asking friends and family. I'd said it in a third party. I have a friend who travels outside of his body, he tells me. Do you know anybody else that does this? No. Came the reply from friends and family. He must be delusional or something. So I thought, well, one night I'll go to bed. I'll ask Ort. He must know. I know there's more information out there. So I went to bed. I relaxed. I opened my mind. I asked Ort, can you come and show me more? I know there's a lot more to this than I already know. And he came. He took hold of my hand. We left out through the window, the bedroom window, flew around the subdivision. Bear in mind, I'm out of body, which I'm used to doing, but now I'm doing it with someone else. I go around the subdivision, come back into the window. I see my body asleep. I go back to sleep. I go back into the body. I woke up the following morning thinking, wow, that was cool. I wasn't certain whether I was dreaming or what it was. So I thought the following evening I would do the same procedure. I relaxed. I went to bed. I opened my mind. I asked Ort to come and show me more. He came, he took hold of my hand. We went out through the window, both of us traveling out of our body. We went down to Leeds City Centre, where I worked at the time. I saw the university building, the hospital building, the town hall, and other buildings that I recognised. And the people in the streets were milling around. At that time, Leeds had a very, very vibrant nightlife. We came back into my apartment through the window. I could see my body asleep. I went back into my body, and then I woke up the following morning, still not certain whether it's a dream, it's real, or what's really happening. So but I do have one concern, and that is my apartment was 3 stories up, and the window was, if we went out through the window, it was concrete pavement below. So I was a bit concerned about that in case I was sleepwalking. So third night, exactly the same routine. I asked Art and just Art, if he would come and show me some more. I relaxed, opened my mind. He came, he took hold of my hand. I left my body. I looked down. I could see it fast asleep. But I said to him this time, do you mind if we go out through the roof this time? Because I'm not happy going out through the window because we are 3 stories up and it's concrete pavement below. So he said, yes, that's fine, no problem. So we went out up through the roof, and then all subsequent journeys were out through the roof. So I had many journeys with him over the years, and so I got used to traveling outside of the body. I now know its full potential and utilize it to its fullest. So I'm just trying to think of some more actual UFO ones that I had one recently with, which was quite an interesting one, because I was actually in my bedroom. I'd woken up in the morning, and I thought, I'll see if I can reach out to this group of 8. I can speak out to them using telepathic communication, which is their preferred communication, although I do have all the other modalities that they use. So I reached out to them, and I wasn't able to contact them. But I contacted a small craft, and the craft was being piloted by a small grey that I know. His name is Tia. And I asked him what he was doing in the area. And he said that they were flying nearby. They deviated from their flight path to come and see where I lived. So we had some other chit chat. And then Tia said, right, we'll have to leave. As I said, we were on the near your home and deviated from our flight path. Nothing unusual for me. And when I'm speaking telepathically with them, I can also see them visually. So I saw Tia flying the craft. He was sat at the front in the pilot seat, and there were 2 rows behind him full of 6 or 7 small greys. I say nothing unusual for me, just another modality of contact. And then I got up, I made a coffee, and our routine in the morning is my wife gets up first, she feeds the dogs, makes a cup of tea, sits by the pool. I get up, I make a cup of coffee and go and sit by the pool. On this day, she said, you won't believe what happened this morning. I said, no, what happened? She said, oh, a rainbow appeared. I said, oh, did you get a photograph? She said, yes. I said, and then she said, you won't guess what happened next. I said, no, what happened next? She said, a UFO appeared, or a craft appeared under the rainbow. And the rainbow was 180 degrees from fence line to fence line. I have 5 acres at the back of the property. And she was taking a photograph of the rainbow, and the craft appeared under the rainbow. She saw it clearly as a disc-shaped metallic craft. And anyway, then I checked the time on the photograph, and it was exact same time on my clock in the bedroom when I was speaking to Tia. Now, very often they give me information, confirmation. That was really just confirmation of the telepathic communication, but I'm used to that now. I've done it for most of my life now. So, but it also brings my wife into it as well. They include my wife now. So so really that's my journey, just shortened really. There's a lot of information there. I've been educated throughout my whole life, and the main education has been one of consciousness and how it can be used as a conduit for communication, for travel, for healing, for education, for creation and co-creation. And I've been educated to their level of understanding of consciousness so I can connect at their level with them. And that's the whole purpose of the education that I've had. Now, Deb's given me some questions here.
Okay.
I have many more stories I could tell, but do you want me to answer the questions now, Deb?
Well, let me go ahead and do our disclaimer before I get into more specifics. The views, thoughts, and opinions expressed in this video belong solely to the speakers and not necessarily to the UAP Medical Coalition, its employees, volunteers, or associates. All medical references are for informational purposes only. This is not a consultation or therapy session. This content can be triggering for some and is not meant for children. I just wanted to make sure I said that before I asked you some more specifics. So you mentioned feeling vibrations. Were there other physical effects that you experienced?
Oh, other physical effects. Let me think now then. Um, I can't recall any. As a child, I was always susceptible to the frequency. Before the contact started, I was always susceptible to the frequencies that are around us. And I could tell if a deceased person entered the room, I could feel their frequencies and things. But it was just normal to me. It was just something that I did. So I don't think I've had any physical effects. I've had physical healings. I've requested for healings, which are very interesting. I had just a few years ago, I had two. Well, I had two moles on my left elbow and one on my right wrist. I'd had them for many years, and then they started growing, cracking, and bleeding. So I googled them and to see what they were, and it said they were melanoma. They looked exactly the same in the photographs that they showed. So I went to bed that evening, and I asked Art. I said, "Art, I've got these melanoma, two on my left elbow and one on my wrist. Would you mind removing them for me this evening? If not, I'll have to make an appointment to go and see the regular doctor and have them removed." I went to bed, I went to sleep. I woke up in the morning and the two on my left elbow completely disappeared. No scarring, no nothing, just new skin. And the one on my right wrist had disappeared, but there was a red line around the periphery where the melanoma had been. And that disappeared by lunchtime. So that would be a physical effect, but that wasn't a physical effect from them. It was me requesting assistance with some healing. So, yes.
How did doctors respond to the melanoma disappearing?
They didn't. I didn't go to the doctor. I didn't need to. I just decided to. Once it started bleeding and cracking, I realized there was something wrong. So I Googled it and I asked for help immediately. So I didn't have to go to see the doctor.
Have you ever talked to a doctor or a therapist or someone with a counseling background about your experiences?
I've spoken to many friends who are counsellors themselves, but not for the what's the, not to be counselled, as it were. We were just having discussions because most of the counsellors have their own experiences as well. So yeah, I haven't been counselled on it per se, but I do speak to a lot of counsellors, a lot of experiences, a lot of doctors who have their own experiences. And because I speak out publicly, then they're happy speaking with me. And many of them share their own contact now publicly because it's growing. The experiences community is growing exponentially.
Mm, wonderful. So you've never had to speak to your own primary care doctor or anybody about your experiences?
No, not from a medical point of view. No, I've never felt I needed to. If I needed help and assistance with anything, I would go to R&D.
Okay. Looks like we froze for a moment, but it's okay. Um, did you have any psychosocial consequences from your experience? For instance, you said that you worked in law enforcement. So did you ever utilize your psi abilities for that?
I tried without success at that. Obviously wasn't my role. And I only mentioned it to a friend of mine, who was still a good friend actually, many, many years ago. At that time, my uncle Alec, he just passed, and he kept coming to my home, and I could feel his frequency. We had conversation, but he'd becoming a nuisance. He'd even come and sit in the police car while I was driving around. So I told a friend of mine who I thought was a good friend, and he is a good friend, and I got ridiculed. And then the rumor went round, as it were, for a short period of time, and then it disappeared. So that was a quick learning lesson. Don't talk about this to people who don't understand. So I didn't mention it again, and I wasn't able to use the abilities I have. I know some experiences who I know, I don't know him personally, but he was a detective, and he used his abilities to solve many crimes. Yes, but I didn't know.
Okay, it sounds like they determined that was a no for you. Don't do that. So, so for the person who ridiculed you and started a rumor about you, and you said the rumor just died away, and that was the only psychosocial consequence?
Yes, it just died a death. No problem at all, really. Which people soon forget, don't they?
Right, and did you have to basically bottle everything up and keep it to yourself as a result?
The thing with the Uncle Alec, I didn't mention it at work, no, because people weren't ready for it then, I don't think. So I didn't really mention it. I just got on with my life. I accepted the fact that I had these extra psychic abilities. I was able to travel outside of the physical body as pure conscious energy, as a conscious energy orb. And if I needed more education, more information, I would contact Orton D. And I was guided throughout my life, many contacts. And they didn't sit me down in a classroom and teach me. They gave me an experience, and the experience itself was the education. And again, within all the modalities of consciousness in relation to communication, travel, healing, education, creation, and co-creation, I have a full understanding of all those modalities because they've taught me about them.
Okay. And you spoke to other experiencers later with various backgrounds. How did they respond to your experiences? Were they supportive and understanding when you spoke to them?
Yes, very supportive, very understanding. As you can imagine, my experiences are really extreme, really. So what I found is I'm able to help other experiences who are still on that journey. So yeah, but very supportive. And we are a community. I speak with many now, many different groups and things. I join in because I can help others in their understanding of what they're here for, what they're doing, what is their role, why have they been educated in these levels of consciousness.
What do you think has been most beneficial to you as someone who's had so many different experiences?
I think it's made me a better person. It's made me a happier person. I'm very happy with, I feel very privileged with the knowledge and information that they've given me. And my reality is different from most people's. I have contact with different levels of consciousness, different beings at those different levels. I understand why and how I can do that. And anybody can learn to do this. It's just that I've been educated to do it. I'm no different from anybody else, just that I've had the education. So for me, it's all been very positive. I feel very privileged. I sit outside very often and I'll relax. I've got a big sycamore tree and I'll sit there. I've got a little chair under there and I sit and I watch what's going on around me. We don't take time to sit and watch the animals, the birds, the trees, the plants. They're all part of my shared consciousness. And I'm able to communicate with those as well. I've got a quick story I can share with my brother. My brother's a retired aircraft engineer. He retired to Spain after a long career. He had his own business, self-employed, very successful. He retired. He wasn't into the spiritual side and the UFO side and the ETs like I am. He just had a normal everyday life. He knew about my experiences. We spoke about them. We talked about them. I even mentioned to him when the war appeared when I was 9. And so he remembers all this. And on this occasion, it was only a few years ago, he's retired down to Spain. And I was speaking to him by Zoom or something. And he said to me, "Oh, Kevin, you should see the butterflies down here. They're huge. I mean, we have butterflies in the UK, but down in Spain, they've got some really big ones." I said to him, "Well, why don't you go outside on the balcony and ask them to come and land on you?" And being a nuts and bolts man, he said that they won't do that. I said, "Well, just humour me. Let's go outside." I'm sat in Florida on my Zoom and he's in Spain. I said, "Go outside and wait for a butterfly to fly past. And when it does, ask it to come and land on your hand." He said, "Okay." So he walked outside. But I said, "You'll need to give it a reason." And this is really an example of communication using consciousness itself. You'll need to give it a reason. And the reason is you want to have a look at the beautiful colours on its wings. So a butterfly flies past. He asks the question. He said, "Can you come and land on my hand?" He holds his hand out like that. The butterfly flies past, goes out of sight, turns around, comes back, and lands on his fingers. I says, "Right, what you need to do now, you need to ask the butterfly, you need to thank the butterfly, and then ask the butterfly to go away, come back with a friend, because you want to compare the colours on the wings of a friend. So the butterfly was on his fingers. It took off. It flew out of sight, came back. It landed back on his fingers. It brought a friend with him, and it landed right in the middle of his forehead. I've got photographs of all this. And he had, I think, 12 landings of butterflies that day. And that was purely because he accessed consciousness in relation to communication. And he was absolutely amazed. And he still does it now. And I know a couple of days later, he said to his wife, come on, Lorraine, let's go outside. I'll ask the butterflies to come and land on you. And I've got a picture of 4 or 5 butterflies landing on her arm. So, yeah, that's the level of understanding of consciousness. And if you use that as for communication, not only for the insects, the plants, the trees, the animals, but for the higher conscious beings, our ETs, our extraterrestrials, it's just exactly the same. I know there are many people who have telepathic communication with their animals. They're using consciousness as that conduit for that communication. So, yeah.
I imagine at some point you have spoken to some people who have had negative experiences. What would you recommend to them to help them, overcome the fear or upset feelings they might have?
Yes, I understand that. And I have spoken to some people who had some horrendous experiences and been absolutely terrified and mortified and caused all sorts of problems for them. I always think the best advice is to ask for assistance from the positive ETs. There are negative ETs here. There are negative ETs who will use and abuse the human species. So we have to attach ourselves to the benevolent ones, and they are out there. And then it's also good to ask for protection if you are being harassed or even abducted by some of these malevolent ETs. So I would suggest ask for protection from the benevolent ones, and then say to the others that you don't want them. We still have choice of free will, even if we're being abused through their use of consciousness in connecting with us. So really ask for protection, speak to other experiences, because other experiences, once they share their knowledge, they're also sharing their energies. They're within the words and things that they speak, there is conscious energy. And within those words and that knowledge can activate not only your DNA, but improve your contact with the extraterrestrials. So yes, it's I'm fortunate I haven't had any negative contact, and I do feel for those that do and have difficulty in dealing with it. Yeah.
Would there ever be a time that you would recommend someone see a doctor or a mental health professional if they're having a negative encounter?
Oh yes, without a doubt. Yes, without a doubt. Our medical professions are very professional, as you know, and can help and assist with these things. So yeah, without a doubt, yes, I would. But I would say I'm not a doctor. I'm not a therapist. I don't do anything like that. I don't treat anybody. I just talk about my own experiences. And if I think that they should perhaps see a therapist in relation to that, but then you would want a specific therapist that deals with, say, abductions if you're being taken against your will, and there are many out there. So yeah, it's finding the right therapist for the right problem that you have yourself. Yeah.
Are those therapists publicly out there, or do people have to find out about them through word of mouth?
I think both. They are out there, but within the experiences community, there are many, many. So I suppose if you contact, I could give you half a dozen names now. If you contact different experiences, ask who they've used. It is word of mouth as well, but a lot do advertise. Yes, it's. I speak with many.
Okay, maybe you can give me some of those names in an email because we like to promote the people who are publicly providing support.
Okay,
Um,
do that.
yep. And then my last question is, can you let people know where they can find you? So if they have questions or want to know more about your experiences or how you get to be so positive about this, because you're very positive. It's a wonderful thing to see how they can reach you.
Yes. Okay. Well, I have a website. It's kevinjbriggs.com. So it's just my name, Kevin, J, the initial, Briggs.com. On there, I've uploaded some interviews. If you go onto events and media, you'll see some interviews there that I've uploaded. You can also get a copy of my book, Spiritual Consciousness, A Personal Journey. I've got a copy here. I'll just show this. There we are. Look. You can buy that on the website, and that has a lot of my experiences in there that I haven't spoken about today. So if anybody's interested in reading that, it's on Amazon as well, if you're interested. And my email is kevinjamesbriggs@gmail.com. If you reach out to me and you've got any issues or anything, if I can help you, I will. If I can't, I'll say I can't. And but if I can point you in the right direction, then I will. So yeah, so I'm open to people making contact with me. I was asked 5 years ago when Orton D. It was the middle of the night. I got up, go to the bathroom, got back into bed, about to snuggle down, and there was a bright light outside the bedroom window. The light lit up came into the window, lit up the bedroom, and it lit it up like a myriad of butterflies. It was just pure white light. And then Orton D materialized at the bottom of the bed. After pleasantries, I asked what was the reason for their visit. They said to me, well, Ort said, Kevin, we want you to talk about your lifelong experiences with us. We want you to write about it. And I remember saying, well, I don't mind speaking about it, but I'm not a writer. And then Ort said, well, we will continue to guide you. We will continue to teach you. And in fact, you will write 2 books, Kevin, and that we will give you information to include in the books, which they have done. So if anybody's interested in that, as I say, it is available on Amazon.
Well, thank you so much for coming and sharing about your experiences. We really appreciate your insights, and I hope you have a wonderful rest of your day. And thank you for everyone who was listening.
Well, thank you, Deb. I appreciate you inviting me. Without people like you, I'm unable to get my message out. So the work that you're doing is very important. So I should be thanking you too. Thank you.
Thank you.